30 years, who lives 500 miles away from me, began a web project documenting 5 likely collapse scenarios and 1 recovery scenario. These days, we each spend about an hour a day filtering through the news and identifying 3 to 6 stories that document the reality of a society reaching multiple tipping points. And then we try to deliver a punchline to each story. We're humoring the horror of environmental collapse, trying to find a way to make the stark reality somehow more palatable through humor and snark. The reason that I am unembarrassed to do such unabashed self-promotion among my scholarly publishing tribe? Because of what I've concluded through collecting these 2,800 plus items over the last 2 years. These news items that we have noted, recorded, considered, and bequeathed. I'm quite certain that what I've learned applies to scholarly publishing, especially the next 15 years, and about digital open access publishing. Let me be clear, these are personal conclusions, and by no means those of my employer. The realities I see ahead of us in the next 10 to 15 years militate for some radical strategic choices in the next 3 years. I believe we must shift our business models publicly, transparently, intentionally, thoughtfully, but radically, to a digital one with open access as the backbone of scholarly publishing. We must do this to survive a tremendously turbulent next decade and to ensure that our mission and its survival continues to be fulfilled. If you think open access is scary, listen to this. There's every likelihood that we are experiencing, or will in the next 2 years experience, what is called peak oil. That's the moment when society has used up more than half of the easily pumped oil. At that point, extreme price volatility begins. The energy cost of extraction continues to grow. The supply decreases in relation to the demand. So the price at every pump, for every machine, for every turning wheel and light bulb goes up. That means that publishers will suffer the serious burden of wildly volatile production and transportation costs of physical books. All physical systems become more expensive, leaving less money for everything. We have today, and will have, a sucky stock market. One little discussed phenomenon associated with our debt-laden society: the parents of the baby boomers will be dying over the next decade. The boomers themselves will inherit whatever stocks their parents owned and will want to pay off their own debt by selling their parents' stocks. In a supply-laden stock market, prices will drop. The coming commercial property collapse will be exacerbated by that trend. Job losses will increase, as will the belt-tightening of the American people. Public funding and private funding will dry up. Universities will be looking for places to axe. Library budgets will retreat. Fewer people, even scholars, will have extra income to pay for our publications. In 10 years, we will be unlikely to be able to sell our print books at the prices we'll have to charge. And that's not even the scariest part. Humans are causing or contributing to a truly, fundamentally terrifying array of environmental collapses. The great migrations themselves are becoming extinct. From salmon to elk to butterflies to tuna. Bats in the Northeast are suffering catastrophically from white nose syndrome at die-off rates of 90%. Pollinators are suffering dramatically. Top of the food chain, predators everywhere are collapsing. All marine mammals have high levels of PCBs and flame retardants and a broad array of other human-made toxins coursing through their bodies. The waste processed effluent from our cities contains the Prozac and Viagra and hormone replacement runoff that we flush down the toilet, which makes fish hermaphroditic. That water mixes with the pesticide, herbicide, and fertilizer runoff from our factory farms, creating a dead zone the size of New Jersey at the base of the Mississippi, joining other dead zones around the world. In between California and Hawaii, there is a gumbo of plastic gyring in the Pacific that's at least the size of Texas. Plastic does not biodegrade, but breaks down into particles that fish consume. And we've already fished between 85 and 90% of the raw biomass out of the ocean in the last century. And every day, we continue to hoover up 4 times more ocean biomass than is reborn. Peak ocean happened a long time ago, but our ever more efficient factory fishing has let us ignore it. Coal power belches heavy metals and incredibly massive amounts of extra carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Let me just say, global warming is not a theory, it is a given. But CO2 does something much worse. While we bicker with the global warming deniers, the ocean is getting more acidic. Excess CO2 plus ocean produces carbonic acid. Ocean acidification is a clear and present danger. A slight rise in acidity dramatically affects calcium carbonate-based life forms like most plankton, shellfish, and coral, the cornerstones of the ocean biosphere. If humans do not dramatically reduce our CO2 output in the next 10 years, our rich, biodiverse ocean will become an acidic, jellyfish and algae-filled cesspool in our lifetime. If over the next decade humans continue doing what we have done for the last 50 years, then we will construct our own hell and our grandchildren will curse our names. I have a lot of fun at parties. Okay, now the good news.
Good.
By our actions, we can help prevent it. We don't have to do what we've done for the last 50 years. But what we do, publishing the intellectual output of the best minds of our generation, matters to society. It matters what we do to ensure that even under this certain strife, society continues to enable an intellectual culture that supports the further development of intellectual culture. Scholarly publishing, like society, will be undergoing tremendous upheaval in the next decade and beyond. And we have a responsibility to society to ensure that we are part of the discussion of how the new world is made. How do we do that? Open access is the backbone of the solution. We've been hearing throughout this conference and just now about collaboration and cooperation and new models of realigning ourselves. I'm afraid, however, they're just not radical enough, given the realities that I've described. If I were king of American University Press Publishing, I'd say this.